So another day, just got done doing some stuff with the white car here, so we got that all taken care of. So now we're gonna focus on the red car here a little bit. Today the plan is to get the engine bay dressed, so we're gonna route the harness everywhere, get that all tucked in. I get the brackets for the brake lines, pop those in the firewall, get the bracket for the ABS module, route the harness. I'm gonna put the motor mount in. He did have 2 bolts and I had to pull out a couple out of my bin here to match another couple. So we got all 4 bolts that we're gonna use to put that motor mount in. And then SDK also sends a, it's not the part number on the bag, but they sent us a bolt to go for the through bolt. So that's perfect there. So you're covered on that part if you get one of his mounts. I know there for a little while that the DCR ones were back ordered. I don't know where they're at with that, if they're done, if they're made, or if they're available currently. So that's why we got an SDK one on this one. Usually I just use the DCR. It's easy to get. He is here in Michigan. I just send him a message and say, hey man, I need one, and he'll give me one coming. But let's get to work on this car. So yeah, found just about everything actually. Got the evap bracket here, alternator heat shield, radiator fan harness, 1 heater hose, ABS module bracket, trans bracket, and battery tray all together. All his motor mounts, so I'm assuming he's going to want to use these massive mounts. So we'll get all those, got the pencil mount, and he's got those extra ones. We'll see what happens with those. Some nuts and bolts, timing cover stuff. Like I said, got a pile of polished stuff. So there's a upper thermostat housing, the engine support, the lower metal mount that goes down for the lower dog bone and the AC compressor, polished pan, polished upper hose assembly, polished intermediate shaft, polished upper alternator bracket. He doesn't have a lower in here that I found yet, but we're still digging, so we're still digging parts out. I just emptied 2 bins and found all this stuff so we can go ahead and start dressing the motor. Got the engine harness, got the wiper motor assembly, but yeah, so we got a lot of parts actually kind of taken out of these boxes here, so that's quite a bit of it. So that's going to be nice, downsizing on all these boxes, and then we can really start pulling parts out of the car and then start dressing this thing. So when we figure out what's going on with the turbo, then we can get that done, but I'll put the turbo on when it's in the car. I don't have any water lines or anything, I just got the oil drain and the oil feed, so that'll be easy enough for that Borg turbo, and then the O2 housing and stuff like that. But the wastegate will be on the manifold. I'm going to put the manifold on the motor, and then he's got to get a wastegate dump tube yet. So I'm going to get all this stuff kind of cleaned up. I just wanted to get everything in order and see where everything was, and then I don't know what brackets and stuff I'm going to have to get so I can get the motor dressed so I can drop it in. But I'm going to get the cherry picker set up tonight, and I'm going to hook onto the motor and I'm going to pick it up and get it straightened out on the engine stand. And then once it's dressed and together, then when I take it off the stand, we'll hang the clutch, bolt the transmission to it, and then we'll drop it in together. And then after it's in, or then after it sets in, I'll start this mount, and then we will use a floor jack to kind of bring it back up. I'll have to see what he wants to do for an upper mount because I don't have a nice red one. I'll have to see if he wants to get one or if he's okay with black or whatever. When we get that plan figured out, then I can go ahead and get the upper done. But at least for now, I'll be able to put the lower dog bone and this mount in, and then once the jack and everything is holding the transmission and it's all together, then I can go ahead and get the trans bracket in with the trans mount, and then let the motor and trans itself hang and start dressing everything on top of that. So like I said, I can put the turbo in afterwards, so all I'd have to do at that point is just undo the lower dog bone and let it pivot on the bolts that are in there, and then once that's all dressed, we can get that all stuffed into place. And yeah, so I mean, we're making pretty good progress. I do got some poly bushings to put in the shifter cables when we get the transmission in. I got all my brackets and stuff. Just got to find some bolts for the wiper assembly. Find some bolts to put the bracket on the ABS module. Get all that stuff bolted in. Get the evap canister buttoned in, and then ask Jordan what he wants to do for a clutch line. Find him a lower alternator bracket. Order axle seals, valve cover seal, and I'll have to get some I have some thermostat housing seals, so we can forget about those. I might actually have axle seals. I'll have to look. I might have bought some and stuck them in the bin. That would have been nice if I did, and I wouldn't have to get anything. Well, I'd still need the valve cover gasket because I don't think I have one of those, and I want to pull his cover off and look in it before I put it in the car. So we're going to get everything dressed up on the outside at least. To get the water pump inlet tube, timing belt, timing covers, exhaust manifold, alternator and bracket, and then get the other brackets bolted to the motor. That way when I set it in, I just got to line everything up and bolt it together, and I'm not fighting these brackets, and then I can drop the AC compressor and the lines and power steering and stuff like that in it afterwards. I'm going to finish going through these parts. I do have a box of parts that we're not using that I've been piling up on his driver's seat there. We're going to take those boxes or those parts, we're going to start transporting them into the plastic bins that he's got that he left with parts in them. That way we can start cleaning the car out and get all the parts in an easily accessible spot so we can really start flowing and cramming this thing together. So I'm gonna finish shuffling through these parts here. My battery's about to die. I'll bring you guys back in when we're ready to do some more work on the car. Well guys, it is officially almost 1:15. So definitely time for me to go inside and get to bed. I didn't realize what time it was because I was just out here just going and going and going. Did get a couple other parts stuffed in the car from the last time that we stopped at the video. I found the AC cup thing, so I got that in there. I gotta wipe that off. It's got a bunch of white stuff on it for some reason. Washer bottle's in, however, with the big turbo setup, we're not going to be able to use the factory overflow bottle. So I did talk to Jordan. We are going to pull the washer bottle out and we're going to put the coolant overflow there, just like I did on Mark's car and just like I have it on my blue car and how I had it on the white car here before we put the fuel cell in. So we're going to do the same setup on this car, put the overflow against the frame right in here, get rid of the washer bottle because he doesn't ever plan on driving it in rain or snow, and he said if he ever gets bugs in the windshield, he'll just wash them off. He won't bother with using the wipers really for much. Got the horn in, mounted the radiator and everything. The nuts aren't in the radiator for the condenser. I'm gonna have to try and find those. It's kind of like these little square nuts that hold the fan to the radiator here. I gotta get the same thing that holds the condenser brackets to the radiator. And then we got some wiring tucked in again. I put the ECM in, we got that hooked up. Got the upper motor mount in. I ended up digging up a bracket that I already had powder coated that I forgot about, and it was just sitting on the shelf. So I dug that up and I messaged him and I said, hey, you know, you don't have one, I got this one, do you want a red one or do you want a black one? Kind of offset the car a little bit. It would go with a lot of the black that's in here, and it wouldn't go against the red motor mounts that we're going to use or all the billet, all the polished billet and polished parts that we're going to have here. So black motor mount will give it a nice little touch to go with the black mount here, and then all the black wiring and boxes and brake lines and things like that. So it'll look pretty homely there, and that'll help clear off my shelf. He did say tires will be here this week for it, so just gotta wait on that. I did hook the master and everything back up. It doesn't look like the system's ever been opened as far as the brakes go. None of the nuts look like they were touched. Or get the wife to pump it up and make sure that each wheel does stop and then release every time we pump the brake. And as long as everything's good, then we're good to go. I do have to look at it, see what pads and rotors look like, so we can get that stuff ordered if we need to. I do have a big list of parts that I gotta get for the car. So if you look here, I got a list of a bunch of stuff, and I've been erasing things as I've been finding it going through bags and stuff, but you know, brackets, and we're gonna do a clutch line and gaskets and a couple fittings here and there. And then we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna get a some 3/8 MPT block offs because we're going to block the oil cooler off and the water feed line to the turbo, because we're not going to use a water cooled turbo. The Borg Warner are just oil cooled, so that'll all get taken care of with the car while the motor's out here on the stand. The motor does actually look pretty clean as far as block. I was thinking about asking him if he wanted to paint it or do anything with it, but I think it looks pretty good, to be honest with you. So we'll just get rid of this line. So this is one of them that's getting blocked off. It's already got the AN feed line for the oil, and we got the big drain line, so just got to cut that guy down depending on where we get for placement. Block off this hole here. We'll get the hard pipes on, we'll get that stuff blocked off. We'll check all that stuff out, go from there. It does need a coil. This one got broke off in transit if somehow I pulled the fittings, or I pulled the broken pieces out of the wires, so at least the wires look like they're still good to go. We might not need wires. I'm going to put a fresh set of plugs in and a box of coils I could pick one from. We did find out that somebody had taken and epoxied in a PCV valve and then ground the fingers off that would actually hold in the factory PCV valve, because it's got two fingers and then it's got a channel in the PCV that just kind of twists in as it sits. So those are gone, but I got a couple covers on the shelf over there. He does have a new water neck with O-ring, so we'll get that stuffed in. They did a new water pump and everything already. The timing cover that he has is busted up, and we found his damper, we found the tip bracket, we found the C101 bracket. So the tip bracket is what holds the throttle inlet pressure solenoid to here, and then the sensor would sit there, and then the C101 bracket bolts in here for this connector, because this is C101. So gotta have that bracket. Found the clutch slave reservoir bracket, so that kind of helped out. Even more things that we didn't have to try and dig up. I found a lot of hardware, found a lot of parts that we needed. There is a couple of clips for the brake lines, so they're in there, so that's good. We got that stuff. The battery tray and transmount bracket, they're over there. They're kind of just waiting for the motor and trans to go in, because I'm gonna drop the motor and trans in together, and it's a lot easier to do with that bracket out of the way. And then while the transmission's kind of hanging down here out of the way, what I'll do is I'll bolt that bracket in and then put the trans mount on, and then I'll put a floor jack under the trans and I'll get that up there while the engine's already bolted in and supported and hanging from here with either the cherry picker or this crane tool that I got right here that goes from fender to fender. And then you just use one of these hooks and a chain to hook onto the motor and support it, and then you get the cherry picker out of the way so you can work on it and do whatever else you got to do. So it does make it convenient. We did find both heater core hoses when I was originally looking for, or when I originally pulled out the boxes. I could only find one. Do have to get a throttle cable bracket and some seals for the AC, which I might have, I'm not sure. I know this one's going to be a special gasket we'll have to order. As far as these go, these are O-rings, and I might have the O-rings in boxes. Like I said, we did talk about the clutch stuff. I found his slave in the original front, or the original line, but we're gonna get rid of the factory line. We're gonna put a braided line in it, and then I'll get some P clamps, and I'll probably just run the line out and then drop it down to the slave. So I do have, like I said, guys, I have a big list of parts. So what I'm gonna do tomorrow is I'm gonna put them all in a Word document, and then we'll get all the prices and everything figured out so I can let him know a final number. I'm definitely going to order all the seals and gaskets and everything right away, and the water block off stuff, that's 100% gonna happen. That's 100% gonna happen, just because I need that to at least move forward. The rest of the things, there are a couple options he has to do, so like the blow-off valve and the up pipe, you know, whatever blow-off valve he wants, whether he wants Synapse or Tile or whatever. And I'll let him make up his mind on what he wants to do for those parts, and then we'll get that stuff ordered and taken care of. He does have an engine intake. It does have the 4-inch elbow on it, so I think he wants to still use that one. So I'm gonna have to get an air filter for that, so I gotta add that to my list actually, because I don't have that. The oil feed line actually looks pretty good. I was telling him that I did water replace it, because this is the one that came in the kit that was used. And I was like, I don't really know if I want to try and reuse something like that. And then I looked at this one, and this one's in good shape. It's a really nice looking line. It's not old, it's not beat up, it's protected. Fittings are all clean, it's not beat to absolute death. So we're gonna use that line. I do have manifold gaskets in here. I'm not 100% sure if I need to put a intake manifold gasket between the Honda spacer and the manifold or not. I'll have to look into that. Kind of a noob on that one. I've never used one, so I've just always used the factory gasket and manifold. And actually, I just used the FlowPro gaskets. So, I mean, if that's any consolation, I mean, I know it's only probably 400 wheel horsepower in the car, but this thing holds 30 pounds, no problem. If that's the case, then I'll just get, I got some FlowPro gaskets that I use, and I'll just put one on here. But If the Honda doesn't need a gasket at all and it just seals itself, then perfect, that's easy enough. I do have Molle gaskets that I use. It's an OE style, so it's got the metal backing with the fiber front. Oh man, we made a lot of good progress with the car today. Like I said, I'm gonna walk around. I'm gonna do a physical check on the brakes real quick, just through the wheels, so I can let him know where the pads and rotors are at. And as long as the calipers grab and release, we're good to go. If one of them sticks, we'll go from there. Probably just take it apart and rebuild it. I've done it a couple times now, whether it's a front or rear. I've done it with this car, and I actually have seal kits in one of my bins over there, so I could take care of that for him if we needed to. We're gonna need a shifter cable bracket, which I might have. I gotta look for. I have the engine support. I should have the bolts. We have the pencil mount. We have dog bones. We have the brackets. Yeah, I think that might be it. I might have the rest of the brackets. I'm pretty sure I have the power steering bracket and the lower alternator bracket. He does have a polished axle bracket. O2 housing isn't gonna, the O2 bracket ain't gonna work with the aftermarket one, or with the big turbo one. The only one that might be questionable might be this one here, which I'm almost positive I have this bracket that bolts to here, here, and here, and then 2 bolts that go in through into the transmission. So one of them goes through into there, and then the other goes through, yep, one of these guys. So I need this one as well. So yeah, the lower bolt on this one goes through here, and this is what goes, you know, so it goes in like that. But yeah, so I need this, so I'll just set this out. Some vacuum lines, some fluids. Yeah, won't take long to get this car together. The turbo should be in Florida tomorrow. Depending on what the teardown and inspection looks like on that one will determine how long it takes to get it back. But in the meantime, by the time I get the turbo back, we should have the motor and trans in the car. Clutch and everything should be bled. And at that point, we should just be waiting on the turbo to get everything hooked up. Just got to get a couple intercooler pipes. That's also on the list. Figure out what he wants to do for radiator hoses. I have some stock ones. He's got a red lower, but he doesn't have the upper, which is kind of weird. He's got 2 hardline ones, and I don't know if he wants to use those or if he just wants to stick a factory one on or buy another set so he can have a red one for the upper too. I'll have to ask him on that one too. So I'll have to add radiator hoses to my list. Yep, we have the lower hard pipe that goes from the intercooler, from the hot pipe to the intercooler. Intercooler's in the house, got to bring that out. Got to get intercooler brackets. So Tanner, I'm definitely going to be hitting you up here tomorrow. I know this will probably be a couple days before you ever see this, but today's Sunday. I'm going to hit you up tomorrow. Let's see if I can get you get some of those intercooler brackets coming from you. Hopefully powder coated, that way I don't have to play with them. I can just get them here and bolt them on with studs. We can hang his intercooler. And then when we get ready to drop the motor and trans in, I'll pull the radiator back out. But I wanted to get it in and make sure that everything was there and hooked up. So the harness is there. I just got to plug it into the main harness. Didn't want to do that, so I wasn't going to mess with that yet. So I could just unbolt the radiator brackets, pull everything right out, and then drop the motor and trans in. And then once they're set in and the mounts and everything are there, then I can just drop the radiator back in, work on the starter, AC compressor, then the power steering pump, and then the intake manifold. Get the throttle body on it, intercooler pipes. Doesn't want a crash bar, so that simplifies that, unless we end up making one. There is a slow boy one on this one, and I don't think anybody really makes one anymore other than Modern Performance, so we might make one. I might just buy some steel and buy some chromoly 1-inch tube and bend it up and weld it, or get dough call or whatever so I can MIG weld it and paint it black or have it powder coated and see if guys want to buy it. Maybe we'll see. Would be nice to have a crash bar offered for bigger front intercoolers now. I guess might have to get some guys with different intercoolers to come around so I can see what fits. If I can make the crash bar to fit the Tuner Geek stuff and the bumper, that'd be perfect. I just don't know how much room would be there. Doesn't seem like a lot. We'll see. But yeah, I know I'm rambling on. It's probably like 20 after by now, but we're gonna wrap this one up for the night though, guys. You have yourself a good one. I appreciate you checking this out. Check out our Instagram, check out our Facebook. There's gonna be a lot of updates with this car coming. We're going to the racetrack with this one here this weekend, so this is a pretty fun build so far. Really clean car, like working with it. So it's coming together. Definitely keep up with it if you guys want to check this one out as it comes together. You have yourself a good one, stay safe, and we'll see you at the track. Thanks.